This is absolutely fascinating. Your opinions are welcome, but my opinion is increasingly that Obama he started out. Here's my chronology. In fact, let's go back into the Wayback Machine. Back in 1962, John Kennedy was asked in a press conference, "What will you do if offensive weapons are put into Cuba, or if Cuba, arms itself?" And Kennedy, off the cuff, said, basically, we'll meet it with a vigorous response, or words to that effect. Very strong response. Now, back in the 60s, there was even in 62, there was this huge battle going on between Jack Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon had been defeated in the election of 1960 by a whisker, and he was going to run again. And the way that Kennedy defeated Nixon in the 1960 election was by criticizing Nixon for being weak on communism. Because Nixon had been vice president, he'd been in charge of the whole Cuba thing in the Eisenhower administration, and Nixon had participated in and kind of overseen the Cuban Revolution, where initially Nixon actually thought, America thought, that Castro, in overthrowing the dictator Batista, was going to become a small d Democrat. He was going to turn into a democratic nation and be an ally of ours. Sort of like George W. Bush thought that when he overthrew Saddam Hussein, that Iraq would align itself with us. The fact of the matter is they've aligned themselves with Iran now, but pretty much officially. But so things don't always work out, right? So Kennedy beat Nixon by beating him up for not being sufficiently tough on communists in the 1960 election, by saying that Nixon and then Castro then aligned himself with the Soviet Union in 59-60, and Kennedy used that Nixon let Castro go communist to win the 1960 election. So in 61 and 62 and through 63 and 64, obviously Kennedy was assassinated in November of 63, but throughout that 4-year period, it fell to Lyndon Johnson to defend the anti-communist position against Nixon's assaults, and he did that by going to Vietnam. But during that time, Kennedy had to be, a real tough guy, because Nixon was campaigning, to run again for president, which he ultimately did in 72, or in 68, excuse me. And so Kennedy knew that he had to sound like a tough guy when he was asked about, if Cuba gets offensive weapons, what will you do? Because, that's how he had beat Nixon in the 1960 election. He had to continue that, beating that drum. And so he made this offhand remark. The offhand remark then caused the Republicans and Nixon and the whole, to just for a week or so go hysterical and say, well, we've never heard this before from this administration. We thought he was just a wimp. How could he say it? Blah, 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 blah. And so Kennedy comes out the following week, and this is the week of, September 12th, 1962, or September 13th. He comes out and opens his press conference with a very brief prepared statement responding to all the furor in the press from Nixon and the Republicans over the previous week, basically saying about him the same thing Hannity's saying about Obama right now. And so Kennedy says this:
if at any time the communist buildup in Cuba were to endanger or interfere with our security in any way, including our base at Guantanamo, our passage to the Panama Canal, our missile and space activities at Cape Canaveral, or the lives of American citizens in this country, or if Cuba should ever attempt to export its aggressive purposes by force or the threat of force against any nation in this hemisphere, or become an offensive military base of significant capacity for the Soviet Union, then this country will do whatever must be done to protect its own security and that of its allies. We shall be alert to and fully capable of dealing swiftly with any such development. As President and Commander-in-Chief, I have full authority now to take such action.
I have full authority now to take such action. So Basically, the same kind of question was put to Obama a year ago. This was a year and a month ago, back in August of 2012. The Republicans were all, oh, look at the Arab Spring, but look at what's going on in Syria and Assad. Bashar al-Assad Assad is how they say it in Syria, is, killing his own people. And, we got to figure out a way to kind of pin Obama down on this. And somebody says, well, what would you do if he used chemical weapons? And Obama says, well, that would be a red line. If he did that, he'd cross that red line and the United States would get involved. It's a year ago. So Obama, by saying that, was basically handing a gift. And I don't think that he said it with a lot of, I don't think he gamed this one out in advance, although I could be wrong. But basically what he did is he handed the Republicans but more importantly, the rebels in Syria a weapon, basically. He said to the rebels in Syria, if you want the United States to join your side and attack Assad, all you have to do is make it look like poison gas was used by Assad against his own people. And so, in my opinion, now, and I may well be wrong on this. I mean, it may well be that Assad gassed his own people, but I cannot figure out why. There is no political purpose. The area that it was done in was partly under Assad's control, partly under the rebels' control. It didn't accomplish any political victory. In fact, it hurt Assad. It didn't accomplish any military victory. So I'm of the opinion that the rebels did this to pin it on Assad so that Obama would find himself backed into a corner, which he did. And so he and Putin get together a week ago and say, how can we get ourselves out of this? Because eventually we're going to come in conflict over this because Russia has this military base in Syria. And it looks like they've worked it out. I think this is pretty cool.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
Now, I may be completely wrong, and all of this is subject to what President Obama says tonight and what happens over the course of the next week. So we have to, we'll see, as they say.